So as far as asset management, the Knight Foundation did a study of diversity in asset management, and they found that together combined, women and people of color combined make up 1.4% of our asset management. So that's about $80 trillion. And I actually spoke with the author of the study, Josh Lerner at Harvard, and I asked him, why did you combine us? And he said, it didn't fit on a chart. And these are substantially owned firms. So it doesn't even mean there's very few women CEOs running an asset management firm, even less, far less than 1%.
It must take a lot of personal fortitude. I don't want to put it upon you to say it must be hard, but I can't imagine what it's like being the only woman in a whole sea. And how does that impact your work? How does that impact your days?
Well, it's actually, I'm at home in my own house now, so it'd be really different, I think, if I were in corporate America, but, or having to be on Wall Street as, I grew up in a trading firm. That's a whole different environment, right? Where it's mostly men traders. I would really shift that and just say there's so many opportunities for women investing, and we see the world differently. And given my experience in the classroom and in my Oakland community and just being involved in so many organizations, we really do use that as an advantage, as a way to look at companies and do due diligence as far as how are they thinking about people and groups of people and innovation. And, we look at how companies are holding their employees. Are they assets on the asset side of the balance sheet, something to be invested into and nurtured as far as building an inclusive culture where people feel safe to bring their whole selves to work? Or are they seen as an expense on the expense side of the balance sheet? And we've seen companies do better, particularly through the pandemic and through these times, when they are really thinking about the humans that build this company.
What a concept. So we were all of your fangirls were just cheering when you launched NIA GX. Can you tell me, why is this so groundbreaking? Why hasn't anyone else done it? And why are you focusing on the public markets? What does it mean that NIA GX is out there as an opportunity for all of us to invest with an ESG lens?
Well, I so appreciate your asking, and thanks for the shout out. So there's just very few women, again, women-led firms, few and far between. Very few of us get the opportunity to launch a mutual fund. So to have a fund that is available in a retirement account that you can request in your retirement account, I think it makes it possible to democratize investing and to really provide access. And then just back to your other question, we are investing at the intersection of environmental sustainability and social justice. So that's one of our lens that we look at for due diligence. So we really want to see companies whose reason for being is working to address one or more of our 6 solution themes. So companies that are doing good for the planet that can also profit from that. And then, of course, all of our companies have diversity in leadership. And then we use that investor voice to help them improve and further that. So I would say just democratizing access and having a mutual fund for us was really important to be able to make investing in the NIA style more accessible to more people.
So many of us, we just did a research study that looked at the investing behavior of women and men. And women invest along with their values. It's super important. It's part of what we do. And up until now in the public markets, it's been very hard to find it's hard to invest in individual stocks and do a good job. It's better to find a fund like yours. One of the things I know is that in so many ways, when women lead, when women found companies, they outperform everybody else. And I know you can never predict or promise anything, but have you seen that investing in ESG, investing in this way that you're the NIA way over time outpaces other kinds of investing?
Yeah, so thank you for that setup, because that's definitely what we're seeing. And if you think about it, just adding the E, the environment, the S, the social, the G for governance, adding those as additional ways to do due diligence on a company. Of course, we're looking at all the fundamentals. Of course, we're looking at cash flows and how teams are getting, their particular products to market, how they are innovating, how they are registering patents. All of this is very, very important. And adding these other layers makes it just a stronger due diligence. So yes, over time, in theory, those practicing strong ESG will outperform.
Well, that's what the data certainly says in all the articles everything I read. You go beyond this just investing and picking people that are well aligned. You actually use the power of your voice to help companies evolve and behave better and be better actors. Do you have any examples of that for us?
Sure. Yeah. And so I came from, before I was in the public markets, I was an early stage angel investor and then also a VC investor for many years. And so I was used to sitting down with early stage entrepreneurs and hearing their idea and hearing their passion and getting a read on their conviction and asking them about life stories as far as what shifts they had seen or what problems they had to overcome. And as part of our due diligence process. So I was really used to getting to know the people behind the idea or the product or the service. And so that was really natural for me to bring over into public markets is, yeah, there's a ticker and there's, a huge website, and yet there's people behind these large corporations making them work. So we do invest across the cap table as far as cap size. We are open to small, medium, and large capitalized companies, and then we do get to know them and we set up calls with them and we send them letters, now emails, now past pandemic it's kind of moved to Zooms and whatnot. But sharing what we're looking for, sharing our values, and then sharing what we want to see, and definitely helping them move forward, particularly sharing expertise on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So anything, again, that will help them see the power and the strength in business of building that inclusive and positive workplace culture. We do a lot of conversations behind the scenes that you would never hear about, just talking to companies. We've recently been talking to all of our companies about their scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, and then setting targets that are not only reasonable, but doable and have a strategy. So that's on kind of the E on the environmental side. On the diversity, equity, inclusion, we're also talking to companies about, starting their diversity reporting. We've had conversations about racial equity audits within a firm. We're also looking at removing concealment clauses because concealment clauses in employee contracts are associated with both sexual harassment and racial discrimination. And so we have had conversations with Tesla, and we had a recent win at Apple.
We seem like they have so many secretive, like behind the scene things. So I'm glad to hear that. Excellent. So when you think about gender lens, Kristin, what does that mean to you?
So that's a great question. One, I just want to make sure that it's out there as a possibility, and then there will be many different interpretations, but basically it brings an eye for equality to the lens we use in looking at companies and also in how we run our own company. So we were the very first Gender Equity Now certified firm in the US. And going through that process, I honestly thought we're women-led, we invest with a gender lens, we hire women, and we invest in companies that have women in leadership, like hand over the certification. I thought it would be pretty quick. And it turns out we spent 8 months really going through this process, all of our policies, practices, procedures that lead to an equitable outcome. So those are things, everything from where you're doing your recruiting and how you're thinking about that, how you're doing your hiring, who's getting promotions, is there a pay gap? So these are things. And then also looking at products and services. Are the products and services beneficial to women and girls? And how does that play out in the company? And then, of course, who's at the top, who is on the board, and what committees are they in charge of? Did you just add a woman as a checkbox, or are they actually in charge of some pretty significant things? And, I don't need to tell you the research on women on boards. However, it is really exciting to talk about the more women on boards, the more ESG expertise and caring and questions. And there's some other really fun statistics about having women in leadership. We particularly concentrate on women CFOs. We really like to see that. That's not an absolute criteria, though that's something we really look for.
Kristin, one of the things that always surprises me about you is you both think big and play big, but you are so down to earth, and your authentic voice and your values just are magnificent. Where did this come from? Like, is it family? Did you do work that, are you religious? Like, what is it that makes you tick the way you are?
Oh, Julie, thank you for that sweet compliment. I came out as a change maker. I have always been the one to have that conversation. When I see something that isn't right or isn't fair, I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it. I want to ask for it. I want to ask for change. So we are seeing that change does happen one conversation at a time. And so being open to those conversations, be it with someone on my staff, be it with a service provider, or with the board of Apple, we're here for those conversations.